Welcome to Language Surfers Podcast, a space with fresh waves for the mind, dedicated to create a platform where professionals from both language industry and academia can share their professional experiences, and where we also explore different career paths at different stages. Hi everyone, so here we are with Nur Ferrante. I'm really happy to have her on the show. Thank you, Nur, for joining.
Thank you so much, Anka.
How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm very happy to be here and to share with you this space.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. So today we're going to cover with Nur something about linguistic validation. But before we go into the topic of linguistic validation, I would like Nur to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? What have you studied? And then we go from there into your specific professional career.
Okay, perfect. I'm from Spain. I was born in Spain, but my parents were from other countries. So that's, I guess, my love for languages and multiculturalism, let's say. I studied different things because I'm, let's say, an eternal student. And I love many areas, but mostly medicine and languages.
Mm-hmm.
And I started wanting to study medicine, but then I ended up studying physiotherapy and osteopathy and a natural medicine, energy medicine. I loved all this spiritual and healing part of things as well, like scientific, but also spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I studied, my bachelor's degree in physiotherapy and then a master's degree in osteopathy. But then I studied English philology because I loved English language and literature. And then I ended up also adding a master's degree in translation. So it was always for me something parallel, right? The health and medicine and also languages, and in my case, poetry, because I love poetry as well. And during my studies, I was doubting if going towards the medicine side or going towards translation. So I was about to study my bachelor's degree in translation, but then I switched to the medical side, and then I did the other part. So it was always like this, that. But then I ended up fusing both. So yeah, that's more
Yeah,
or
that's
less
great.
my.
Such a nice combination.
Yes, I really love it, and I guess it's what came naturally. Although I loved also philosophy, psychology, and I studied, let's say, independently, philosophy and psychology. Um, and but in truth, it was really the practical side of um, taking care of patients, of being of value to people, of contributing to uh, relieving suffering in the world, let's say, which I guess it was related to contributing to relieving my own suffering and being of service. And so I always worked then after my studies in both things. I was translated since the very beginning. I've been like for 28 years, really, because I started very young translating. And my first job translating was really doing um, simultaneous interpretation in a concert of U2 in Spain.
Wow.
Yeah, and they came to Spain, and I got that job. I was 19 years old, and I was like, what? And it was my first experience with like really getting paid for translating, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. It had nothing to do with medical translation, of course. But then, I liked it, and I started translating, and at the same time working as physiotherapist and osteopath and traveling all over the world because I worked some time for the Spanish Federation of Triathlon, and we traveled the world, and I had to interpret for all the team. And so again, I was having practice with that as well, and that made me start translating really always at the same time as I was working with patients. So it's been always a parallel thing for me.
Wow, that's so nice. I like your start of career. So how did you end up in linguistic validation?
Well, okay, truth. I had my own clinic for many years and my practice, and also I was translating medical materials, but I also for a time I also had a small publishing house.
Wow.
And yeah, I published just very romantically. I published philosophy and poetry uh, titles. But then I started translating more and more medical materials. And what happened is that uh, over 10 years ago, I was, well, also, sorry, I have to mention that I taught at university. I was my alma mater is UNED, the national distance university in Spain, and I was in one of the colleges, let's say, that they have. I was the languages coordinator and also instructor of English there, and I enjoyed teaching immensely. Right, so. I had many jobs at the same time because I was unable to say no. I was this kind of person who was unable to say no. And I just ended up, overstressed. I had many patients. I had many translations. I had a lot of classes and I couldn't say no. And I had my dog and my husband and in the house and cooking and everything. And friends. And I just, overloaded. And what happened to me is that I was contacted by MAPI Research Trust, and they asked me, Nur, would you like to do linguistic validation? And I said, and what is that? I had I had no idea at the time. And well, they explained to me what it was, and they asked me, can you recruit patients and so on? And I said, for sure. I have my patients and, a huge network of patients with my colleagues and hospitals that I know and friends and so on. And they said, okay, we can offer you a small training. And that's what they used to do at the time in my peer research trust. It was very brief training of each of the steps. And I started having projects with them. And back then, we didn't do cognitive debriefing online. We did it, or over the phone. We did it in person. So I was very lucky because I could get the patients to come to my clinic instead of me having to travel all over Spain in order to interview the patients. So it was very nice. And yes, so that's what happened. And I had, well, more and more projects related with that, and I started loving it. I really loved it because it was a kind of giving voice to patients. I had no idea that these questionnaires, I use those questionnaires for my regular practice, but I really wasn't aware up to what degree they were impacting patients' lives and how important the work that we were doing as linguists was. So and also I was doing with my patients a role of education because I always loved to empower my patients into being able to tap into their own healing abilities and to understand what was happening to them, to not fear the illnesses that they were having, and so on. So it was kind of I don't know, the perfect like combination there, no?
Combination, yeah.
And yes, so in 2018, what happened is that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I had very intense symptoms, and I had to be hospitalized. And after that, well, I I remember I could keep doing my projects in the hospital. I was in my laptop,
Mm-hmm.
and I could keep working. Don't tell me how, because I was, my brain was absolutely inflamed, and well, all the symptoms are specific, because as we know, multiple sclerosis is the condition of 1,000 faces. So each of us lives it in a unique way. But in my
Mm-hmm.
case, well, it was very intense. And I remember that I couldn't think of not being able to work with my patients, not being able to continue with my practice. So I tried to not to stop working. I
Mm-hmm.
was discharged from hospital, and I went back to the patients, and I remember falling over the patients. I just couldn't be there. I couldn't feel my hands. I was exhausted, and my brain just couldn't work at all. And uh, well, I realized that I couldn't continue. So I got sick leave. And
Mm-hmm.
after a year, I went through well, these, processes that you do, and they decided to give me a disability, and I was like, what? You know, what? I'm not that bad, that sick. I just couldn't accept that I
Mm-hmm.
was as sick as I was, and I didn't want to like stop the life that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
But in all that process, I could continue with linguistic validation one way or another. It's true that I had like less projects. I couldn't continue with medical translation projects. That was like too much. But I could
Mm-hmm.
continue with the linguistic validation ones because, well, as uh, we know, they have different phases. So,
Mm-hmm.
and many days that you go through the process of the project. So I could continue doing that, right? And to me, it was kind of a medicine to be able to feel that I could do something, that I wasn't absolutely disabled in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. And yeah, because in truth, I was in absolute negation, and I didn't want to accept that that was happening to me. Well, all the phases that patients go through, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
that I usually supported my patients in those phases, but then when you are at one there, no, it's very
It's
hard.
different. Yeah, it's hard.
Yes. So I ended up accepting that I had to close my practice,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked if I could continue with this, and well, the social security system in Spain explained to me that as long as it didn't damage my health, I could continue doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and receive disability and so on. And it was to me a path of really reinventing myself and trying to bring all the healing part of me
Mm-hmm.
inside the only thing that I could keep doing, which was linguistic validation and writing poetry. It was the only thing that I could keep, yeah, well, and try, my healing practices, meditation, energy healing, diet, anything possible, any psychospiritual therapies in order to understand, the trauma behind what was happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
everything possible, for trying to heal. And so linguistic validation really became, uh, well, it was at first it was one more of the things that I did, and it became the center of my professional life, let's say. So what occurred is that I started appreciating more and more what I was doing. I started studying more, going deeper into clinical outcome assessment science, learning much more about that. Well, getting a lot of experience, and also working on poetry and poetry as therapy, poetry therapy, or poetry medicine, that we call
Mm-hmm.
it, because it was kind of my own process of healing as well. So it was like fusing, like bringing the medicine that I couldn't practice anymore into language with linguistic validation, and also
Mm-hmm.
bringing it into poetry, into writing. So those were like my two pillars. And I remember reshaping my website, not knowing how to identify anymore myself, how, what was I? Because there was like an identity crisis as well. And I remember that I ended up calling it, well, the name already was Art of Diversity, because,
Mm-hmm.
well, I may tell you later why that name is there. But then I decided, to say, well, linguistic validation, translation, and healing words. And healing words is the part of poetry
Poet.
therapy, and all this healing part of me that is still alive, but in a more, let's say, not personal way, but not like more voluntary, not with remuneration or anything. And because I also, of course, translate poetry, I'm one of the translators of Tolkien's works, J.R.R. Tolkien's works, and also his poetry, but also other poets. So it's like fusing all of that together to find my own, let's say, my own voice. And that's how I really found linguistic validation. And yeah, and
Wow, this is such a deep and profound story that you have. I'm really impressed,
mm,
especially because, as you said, when you are diagnosed with such a disease, right? It's really difficult to accept it, but you had the strength to find your way, and yeah, you kept there through linguistic validation and poetry, and I think that's super brave.
mm,
And I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I didn't know that aspect of you. And I think that it can really inspire other people to know, even though you're going through a very tough moment in your life,
mhm.
mm, find your way, find your identity. If you have to pivot and reshape your professional career, just don't give up and find something that truly fulfills you.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Because, for example, there are many ways in which, well, life is always a constant, let's say, death and rebirth. It's a cycle, it's a constant cycle. And sometimes it's an illness, sometimes it's I don't know, someone discharging you from work, or, letting you go.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be changes in the shapes of the industry, like we're having now in with artificial intelligence and our
Mm-hmm.
situation as translators. And there are different life crises that, well, it's part of being human, how we learn to navigate that, how we bring all our resources, how we recognize the fear as well, and the uncertainty and the anxiety of the uncertainty, but also how we connect, or even there's a moment that you need to let go and trust. Yeah, I remember in the hospital, because, well, it wasn't the only big flare that I had. I had another one very strong as well, and then more, but I learned how to cope with that. And I remember I was telling to myself all the time, let go and trust, let go and trust, let go and trust. And because in the end, some things are just out of your control, and you need to uh, surrender to that. It doesn't mean surrender in the sense of giving up.
Mm-hmm.
It means a deeper surrender, in the sense that there are movements, energies in the world at play, that uh, you know, it's like trying to contain a huge wave. It's like it's not your job to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but everything will work out in the end. And what's the worst that can happen? You know, that you end up without job out in the street, and to put yourself there, and to face that fear, and to, in my case, of course, it's true that I look for a lot of help, and one of the greatest helps, and let's say mentor in my life is it's a woman called Byron Katie. She does a work of questioning your stressful thoughts, and bringing you to, let's say, the end of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a kind of a Buddhist flavor to it, but it was out of her own experience. And well, she's a woman of 80 something now, but she's still for free, just every three days per week. She has her community, and she shares and helps people question their stressful thoughts, or ideas that make you suffer. And I remember when I started doing that, I was more able to face my fears, to befriend fear, and to really open to something greater than myself. It doesn't need to be. It depends on what you believe, but
Mm-hmm.
that greater than yourself is whatever anyone considers that in the end. Like when you go to sleep, you just release to that, and when someone dies, has to release to that. And when we work with patients, we know about death, and we understand that. Well, life is much more complex, and we need to be very humble, and at the same time open to whatever life will bring us as emergent future. And sometimes it's the best that can happen to you. And in my case, it turned out to be that way, because um, I was overstressed. I had many traumas, childhood traumas that I hadn't, uh, I don't know, I hadn't healed at all. And I lived with a high level of anxiety that I wasn't aware of. I buried everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're used to, it doesn't matter, you know, whatever happens, I keep going, and so on. And it's like the universe, let's say, stopped me
Yeah, to
and
bring
made
you on
me,
your on your own path, right?
yes. And it just turned out to be beautiful. And there are limitations. I live with, well, I have mild cognitive impairment. I have many symptoms. My life is very limited, but I don't feel limited anymore. And for example, when I now with my students, well, I will tell you about my course because I have a
Mm-hmm.
course in linguistic validation, or when I speak to a client or to someone, one of the things that I've learned from different mentors in my life is to be honest, and to say my truth, and not to try to be what I'm not, because that I used to do that because I had this imposter syndrome, and I thought I needed to be the best or perfect, or well, like so many. And if I said that I didn't know about something, they would think that I, was worth, I would believe that I was worthless, or well,
Mm-hmm.
those feelings that sometimes we have. And I just realized, I don't, because I was afraid of, let's say, showing up, like entering to more of a public way of relating. Um, like several years ago, I wouldn't have ever thought about doing an interview in a podcast and allowing anybody to see my face. I was like, but not because I was shy, because I would thought I don't know what to say. Everything that I'm going to say will be wrong. They will think whatever, whatever, whatever. And I was absolutely blocked. With
Mm-hmm.
my patients, no. But so I remember that I learned that lesson. And what I do now is the first thing I say, I'm a multiple sclerosis patient. I have mild cognitive impairment. That means that sometimes I get blocked when I talk. Sometimes my words don't come out of my mouth as I want them. And sometimes, I may go round and round in circles when I'm trying to say something. And I tell always my students, let me know and let me, hey, no, you are, digressing and that makes me feel like I don't need to be perfect and also invite others to relax and not to have to be perfect either. That however we are is enough. So that's one of the greatest, let's say, maybe lessons of my life. Um, and that led me to what happened in well, to talk about maybe my course and why it came about.
Yes, exactly. Because I know you mentioned that you worked at university, that you love teaching. So I think that this is another shape of, how
Yeah.
linguistic validation puts you
Like
on
in
your own
linguistic
path.
validation, I put all together. Yes, I really, well, I have to be honest. Uh, I always feel like I do have also this sense of um, how do they say in mindfulness, the eternal student, or always to keep an open mind and to have a beginner's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when I taught in university, I always felt like a facilitator. I never felt like a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't know, and I'm the one
Teaching them.
giving you this information. And for me, it was more waking up the gifts in each person. But that's something that came since I was a child. I always loved trying to detect the gifts of other people, and I always believed firmly that every single human being is a genius, every single one, but genius in their own way, unique way. And if they compare themselves with anyone else, that's when all these feelings of lack, of low
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem come. And it's impossible not to compare yourself. It's a natural thing that we do as humans, of course. But in a deep way, let's say, not compare yourself, because you are absolutely unique. And I love to detect that uniqueness in people and see that, because it's like a light that shines
Yeah.
there. And um, those gifts, that's another lesson from my mentor, Byron Katie, is those gifts are not yours. You have been given those gifts. And if you keep them to yourself and don't share them with the world, they will make you sick, because that's something that you have come to transmit. Like they exist, and you pass them along. So it is like, let's say, your responsibility in your path to
Mm-hmm.
share those gifts in whatever form they appear for you. And when I internalized that, I was less concerned about what others may think of me,
Mm-hmm.
and all the blocks in the idea of sharing with other people. And I started to just say, okay, I love teaching. I mean, facilitating learning, and I love really waking up wisdom in other people. That means, for me, wisdom, which, well, I guess it's the general definition, is knowledge with experience. That's
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and experience is what becomes wisdom. So and that's what it's realized. It's made real in your life, no? So I love to help other people um, um, wake up their or detect or recognize their gifts, and gather their wisdom, because they have it inside. They have already a lot of knowledge, and they have already a lot of experience. They just don't realize it. And I'm adding, of course, I'm adding knowledge, because I'm providing them new information. And
Mm-hmm.
but it's out of my wisdom, not out of knowledge that has been acquired, and I'm like parroting it to them. I
Mm-hmm.
used to do that, and I felt highly insecure because it wasn't real for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I tried to teach something that it wasn't real in my life, just to teach out of my experience and my real wisdom. So that gave me a great confidence and a sense of relaxation and joy, and say, I don't need to know everything. This is what I
Mm-hmm.
know. This is my experience, and I'm going to share it with you. And then you are in the process of learning, you are going to be sharing your wisdom with me. So that's why I'm always the student here. I'm also the student here as well.
Yeah, I
And
love that
and
approach. Mm.
yeah, so that's when it becomes a true, um, let's say, a true intimacy relationship that happens between um, us. As in this case, I'm the voice here, and creating the space for learning and growing to happen. And I'm just a more advanced student in this field, but not in life. In life we are all equal. So that's what brings to me like the greatest beauty, and we create a sense of community and end up having a deep friendship and deep connection, and that's really amazing. So um, what made me jump in and do the course? Well, this course, in truth, has been prepared for several years because I was very sick, really, and it was super difficult for me just to create a PowerPoint and just to put things together. It was like a huge. I'm amazingly well now, but compare, but back then, and the what triggered me is it was that well, different clients and different companies asking me, Nur, can you help us with this project? Like, not only for because I work for in linguistic validation for Spanish for Spain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I recruit patients, I do the interviews, the cognitive interviews, I recruit patients, I do the whole process of linguistic validation. Also, the ECOA, right? Migration and scription
Mm-hmm.
review, but
Mm-hmm.
like linguistic validation consultant for my language. But I started receiving also requests for multiple languages, or for taking care of projects with other languages, and for more project management.
Mm-hmm.
Freelance, of course, but and what I was detecting is that, oh my God, there's a huge lack of linguistic validation specialists.
Mm-hmm.
And also I was seeing in the medical translators community, our colleagues, just, we're having less work, or so many of them were not happy with post editing and wanting to do something else, and a lot of like discomfort in many areas of the profession. And I was like, but there's a huge need, of you. And then all these translators, medical translators, having no idea of that linguistic validation exists, and they are super needed. And I thought, well, and added to that, I sincerely didn't know if I was going to make it, in the sense of because sometimes, my illness would go very, very bad. And many times I thought, I can't continue working. I have to quit this. And I'm just, I have to accept that I cannot even do this. So I wanted to pass along the knowledge I had, and what I had learned, so that others could learn how to do this and work in this
Mm-hmm.
before I couldn't do it anymore. And I realized that no one was teaching this anywhere. And some companies, of course, companies train you, but it's very small training. And I was seeing also a not good quality in many of my colleagues' work, because they were not really aware of what a clinical outcome assessment is, all the nuances and
Mm-hmm.
intricacies. So they were not making, let's say, informed choices when they were validating the questionnaires. So I saw that need, and I made it sincerely out of my heart. It was a decision made with the heart. And also like, and I can teach again, it's so fun. And also it happened that I felt very lonely. I felt very lonely. I love sharing with people. I loved sharing with my patients. And of course I had my, with my interviews with patients, I continued being with patients, but um, I missed, I don't know, having colleagues or,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember by then, back then, I was very little active in LinkedIn. I was afraid of posting absolutely anything, because I was afraid again of people thinking like, "Who's this girl? She's saying absurd things." Like, I don't know. I was very shy in that sense, and some companies, curiously, while I was drafting the course
Mm-hmm.
material. Several companies contacted me asking me to if for consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
They had clients, and they already had clients that now were requesting to them linguistic validation, and they had no idea how to cover that need, and they wanted to cover that need for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they asked me if I could train them, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to, an entire company to tell them? And I just told them the truth. I'm preparing a course but it's for medical translators, for colleagues. But yes, I know all the steps and everything. So I can see if I can give you a hand. And what, to my surprise, I was much more prepared than I thought. And it was great news. And I could, of course, help them. And then there was another company afterwards that helped me. And I had already prepared like a more, let's say, a structured uh, offer for development and implementation of linguistic
Mm-hmm.
validation and training, right? More of a
Mm-hmm.
training. And well, we did that, and it was super fun. It was beautiful. And after that, I had like completed the entire material that I needed to launch this for colleagues, for medical translators or healthcare professionals. And simply, I was still not active on LinkedIn. I was only reposting things. But
Mm-hmm.
for some time, I had been like connecting with people, like connecting with people that was interested in linguistic validation. I was, oh, I like this person. And I would say, because I had no idea how LinkedIn worked. And I
Mm-hmm.
just connected with them, like, and some people, ask me, oh, hello, how are you? And who are you? And I'm, oh, like linguistic validation. Oh, yes. Oh, that's nice. And so, but it was like once in a while I would open there and I say, oh, because they recommend you, people with
Mm-hmm.
similar profiles and so on. Maybe by the time I contacted you as well, I'm not sure. Even, I may have. And sincerely was out of trying to start connecting, to not be alone anymore. This experience training this company, which was a group of people, made me want to um, come out of maybe so much um, let's say winter energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and I prepared the course, I prepared the platform, I had it all launched, or I mean ready, and I
When
created
did
a
you launch the
post.
course officially? I mean, on your platform?
The course, I launched it on June 2024, this June.
This June.
And it's a course, but it's a very thorough course because
Mm-hmm.
I'm very deep when I teach something, and I like the people to know all the nuances so that they know, like they take this course and they can face any linguistic validation project. They are absolutely prepared. They can conduct interviews, they can recruit patients, they can do
Mm-hmm.
all the steps, everything, right? So it's a course of really 80 hours in truth,
Mm-hmm.
and many it's a live course, so there are live sessions, many of them, and then many things to study and to follow
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So it's and many practices that they do, and I correct for them, and then there are one-to-one sessions, and we have Yeah, so I created the course. A lot of people joined in, which it was amazing for me. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with these people? What am I going to teach? But they went through the course and it turned out amazing. And we had so much fun and um, many of them have work now. They have been onboarded because to tell you the truth, they're amazing professionals. And if they
Mhm.
have survived my course, I can tell you that,
They can do anything.
they can do anything. Yeah, because okay, I'm very friendly and very easygoing, but then it's true that I ask for excellence,
Mhm.
and well, I really ask them for that, but I help them in the process of recognizing their excellence and attaining it, and um, and it's really their work. It's not mine. I just create the right environment, let's say, but
Yeah.
it's them that grow their own tree. And after this, I just well, learning from their feedback,
Mhm.
I improved the course. Because there are many things when you launch a first course, there are many things that will need to be adapted. It's true that it was very heavy in terms of the theory of clinical outcome assessments that I was providing to them.
Mhm.
But to me, it was important because, well, we normally do cognitive debriefing interviews. The combination is clinician and linguist, yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's true that the medical translator is amazing for doing this and for doing cognitive debriefing interviews if trained, because they have like all the linguistic part. Like if you outsource only, let's say, a psychologist or a medical doctor for the interviews, but they are not medical translators, they are not really linguists. Sometimes the interviews are not the same. And from my experience, the best result is a medical translator that has, of course, clinician background, or a
Mhm.
medical translator that has studied or formed themselves with different medical areas. That's what
Mhm.
a medical translator has to do if they want to be medical translators.
Mhm.
Have at least 5 years of experience with medical translation, and then they go through the course because they are very thoroughly trained with clinical outcome assessments science. So they come out really, really ready to, to get all the nuances, all the cultural nuances, but how to talk with patients, how to do the interviews, and how to extract the linguistic part that they really need. Um,
Mhm.
and also how to recruitment, and there are people who are, well, freelancers used to deadlines, so they can cope better with the recruitment stress part. They're very resourceful. Freelancers are also company owners. It's tiny company owners, but they are, so they find ways to solve things, and
Mhm.
so it's a very ideal profile, let's say. So that was my intention, like to equip them. Some of them, of course, are nurses and doctors and so on, so no problem, but they are not as familiar with clinical outcome assessments. But for them, it's easier because they are
Mhm.
more used to all the medical scientific jargon, no, let's say. Um, Not in the medical translators as well, but the others in the sense of with patients and with practice, no, in
Mhm.
real healthcare practice. But the course needed, in truth, some adjustment because it was too heavy.
To have.
That part was too much. And in this second part, I adjusted a little bit without losing the essence that was important, but maybe not making it as heavy, and trying to organize it better. And we are just completing the second course, and also well, they are doing amazing. And the next plan is to offer the course. My idea is to offer the course 2 times a year, one in spring and one in autumn,
Mhm.
but also to offer a course that will be self-paced and very basic, for, let's say, medical, because this course takes 2 months and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be, well, more costly for some people in terms of not only financially, but also time, because they need to uh, work, or they have their families, or and it's a very intense course. So
Mm-hmm.
for some people, it's not as maybe they want to do it. It's what happened. A lot of people wanted to do it, but they couldn't in October, so they had to postpone it to the spring edition. So the idea is to facilitate and create a more basic course
Mm-hmm.
that it will give you the basic nuances, and they will consider if they want to move to the let's say the specialization course.
Mm-hmm.
And also it will be more affordable for some translators that may be going through more difficult times right now in the industry situation that we have. And
Mm-hmm.
also if they are from countries that have less resources, financial resources, they may be able at least to know a bit, and to consider if they want to invest in and at least say, well, we took maybe if they want to go to client and say, I would like to do linguistic validation, I have taken this basic course. And
Mm-hmm.
if they are, let's say, onboarded, let's say, okay, and I will take the complete course, so it may open them
New
paths for
opportunities.
opportunities. Yes, because to me the idea is not like having some students and then not be like not make it accessible, but make it accessible and helping, because really we need a lot of linguistic validation consultants. We really need them. And if it's for rare languages, because they are in great demand, and if it's for common languages, because there are many clinical trials being conducted for the common languages that we have. So either way, we need a lot of people. So that's the plan. And
That's great. I really like
yeah.
the fact that you are thinking about, different levels of intensity of the course, but also, the economic engagement and giving opportunity to people that may not afford it at the moment. So I think it's
Mhm.
super useful to have this type of approach and to see that it's not only based on financial from your perspective as a creator, right?
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
at least that's the perception that I really see, that you're doing this from your heart, is not for financial gain in the sense that only the financial part is relevant for you. Obviously your effort has to be compensated, right?
Mhm.
Because you're doing a
Mhm.
lot of effort, you've got a lot of knowledge on this. And I really like how you present the course. And I think that I've already met some of your students through LinkedIn.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
And
Yeah. They are
I like
brilliant. They
I
are
like
brilliant.
and I like the idea of the community that you are creating. And
Mhm.
that's why I also wanted to invite you, because the feeling that I have is that this is just such a nice opportunity to meet colleagues, right? People who have the same interest, linguistic validation, but also creating a community. And I
Yeah.
think this is very rewarding.
It's really incredible, and it happened. If you want me to tell you how it happened, because it was really natural. I absolutely didn't anticipate creating a community. Of course, I created a community for the students in the course. So
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
platform that I use has a section that is a community, and people can. Um, but what happened is that we had connected so beautifully, and what the general message was that we were really all very isolated in our own little spaces with our computers.
Mm-hmm.
And we have communities, or we join, but not in such an intense way, let's say, that we can feel like we can support each other so much. And the message that I was getting is, I feel that I'm very happy because finally I don't feel that isolated. I can share. I have people now that I can rely on. They would understand, talk to each other, because we would go into breakout rooms and do different exercises and do things in order to also cope with different psychological issues that we have in the professional field, insecurities and also other things, and learn how to listen to each other and also different strategies, because we don't have to forget that we have to interview patients, and we need to develop compassion, and also a sense of listening, and listening in the sense of tuning with the person, listening with your heart, listening with your body, listening with your mind to that person, because that person, it's true that it's helping you improve the questionnaire, but it's a person who has an illness, and you are asking them how are you today, and you listen, and they may open up, and many things can happen, and you need to be ready to do that. It's much more complex than simply, okay, I get this respondent and they tell me this and goodbye. No, it's a human being that sometimes they are with terminal illnesses or illnesses that are very difficult to bear. And to me, having an illness made me learn from the other side, of course, as a healthcare provider, but also as a patient, and to see the sensibility that is required, and also the cultural sensitivity that is required in the embracing of our diversity, and consider inclusion, equity, and all these aspects that are fundamental to translation and cultural adaptation, which we do in linguistic validation. So what occurred is that we had created a connection between each other, and we could feel, I guess, if I can talk for them, that we could be ourselves.
And that's so important, to be authentic,
Yes,
especially
yes.
at workplace, even if you are freelancers or small business owners.
Yes, and I was receiving, like, at the end, well, I had beautiful testimonials and saying, it's wonderful. Besides, of course, I asked them in the surveys, you have to let me know what things you didn't like or not, because I need to improve this course and I need to learn from your experience. So they gave me all their feedback, and but also this heartfelt gratitude, and I was so moved, and many of them were saying, I'm so sad that this is over, I would love it to continue. And I said, and why don't we create a community? No, and why don't we create a community? And I told them, why don't we start with a community in LinkedIn? No, let's say I thought it wasn't a conversation that we had all together by the end of the course, and we thought, yeah, it would be a great idea. And I asked them, would you like it to be private or public? And because also it was an idea of a community for, let's say, how can we have visibility? Because part of the course as well is helping them for professional placement,
Exactly,
how to improve how to reach clients, and how to introduce themselves in the market, and so on. So it was like, well, if we create a community in LinkedIn, and why did I create this course? I asked myself, to bring clients to linguists and bring linguists to clients. So why don't we create a community where we can put everyone together and just invite them, just be there and share, all of us, about linguistic validation and clinical outcome assessment science. We like it. And it's a way of, they will see you, but also you will see them, and you will learn from them, and you create synergies, right?
exactly,
And not make that huge of a difference between clients that seem to be there, and linguists that are like no, why that
it's a
distance?
mutual support, right? The clients need the expert knowledge from the linguists, and the linguists want to to get jobs,
Yes.
right?
And it's like you have vendor managers in a lot of companies going crazy looking for, vendors. And it's like, let's make it easy for them.
And trained
They want
vendors,
to
because
find you.
it's not the same as just onboarding someone who's not prepared versus onboarding someone who already has the expertise, the knowledge, the
Right.
specific knowledge in this case, because linguistic validation is a very specific type of translation.
Right. And it's very complex. So, and there are companies that work with like you do the entire process and you take care of your language entirely. You're like the in-country consultant and you do everything. But other companies work more in pieces and each linguist do each part. But whatever the model, you have to know how to do each of those parts and understand the whole process and be well, we train ourselves in, let's say, for translating clinical trial protocols, for translating pills, for translating. No, that's, well, it makes sense that we get proficient also in we specialize as well in this. So it was at first the idea of being just the people from the course, but then it was like, no, we need to open to to create really a general community for everyone in the industry. That's how the the LinkedIn linguistic validation community came to life. And then what happened is that we wanted to continue with that spirit of friendship that had happened and in collaboration and connection. So I thought one day, why don't we create a linguistic validation cafe? Why don't we meet once a month and just 1 hour once a month all together? But just people who have gone through the course, the ones that we know each other, and then when we have and everybody who has done, because then I got the idea, of course, I'm really doing a linguistic validation training program. It's a whole program because I train companies and I train linguists, and also so it's like anyone who has participated in any way in whatever trainings that I have provided is invited to be part of this linguistic validation cafe community. And there, what we do is support each other, talk. We go into breakout rooms. It's super informal, and we help each other. So what happened? Because what I like about community is that it really creates magic. As well, in any group, you are much more than individually.
Exactly.
So many ideas come up, and if you allow them, if you don't get the dominion of everything, and you want to, but you just let them make their gifts emerge, they're going to create amazing things. So if you put a lot of brilliant people together, beautiful things happen. So what happened is that we started, well, we could ask questions and we can post them in LinkedIn, and maybe other translators would like to know what we're doing. So say, okay, and how we answer questions? Well, maybe we could create a podcast. Oh, that's a great idea. And then so on. So that's how the Linguistic Validation Cafe podcast came about. And we all created together. I'm the host, but what we do in those sessions is we get together. We maybe the first 10-15 minutes, we go into breakout rooms and we talk about a specific topic that we are going to cover in that session. And then 2 or 3 of the former students, the now super specialists, or not the current students. The current students are participating, but they are not presenting topics. So we say, okay, the first topic was to talk about what is linguistic validation. No, the first thing, because let's share and let's make other medical translators know that what is that, and why is the medical translator the ideal person for doing this, and so on. So we come up with topics, and every month we cover one, and it's about cognitive debriefing and recruitment, patient recruitment, because it's one of our issues. Our difficult issues is recruitment, and but also because many medical translators don't know about cognitive debriefing and don't know what linguistic validation is and so on. So it's also to introduce it to them. And it was this time it was our my dear friend Tomislav Gersik from Borliner, and he was moderating. And then Cathal Monaghan from Ireland, and that he covers languages in English. And then Natalie Netkova, that she's from NN Translations, and she's from Bulgaria, and she also she's a multiple languages vendor, and she has a lot of experience. So in truth, my students are amazing people, and they're from company owners to already experienced linguistic validation consultants, but that want to go more thoroughly to medical translators who have no idea about linguistic validation. And sometimes it's a challenge in the course to try to balance all of them and to try to, but it's nice because they can also meet each other, and it's great because we can meet company owners and say, oh, they are normal people like us. We can, it's fine, and they give us advice, or it's really beautiful. So that's how the community came about. We have a WhatsApp group as well, and we have a support group in the sense of if we have problems. Okay, we are under confidentiality always, so we are not going to be sharing. Let's say we have a project and we cannot say anything about that project in the sense of specifics, but we can support each other in the sense of I'm having difficulties recruiting patients, for this. Anyone can help, and we can support or say, yeah, or we can find, we all get active and help each other. Or I have a doubt with this, and there's a term that I'm like we do in medical translation support groups in other, let's say, associations or whatever. So it's a beautiful community, and we'll see where it goes. But for now, it's really beautiful, and to me, it's a great satisfaction, and to see them. I don't know, to see that so many people are starting to love linguistic validation, to fall in love with it like I am, and to find, well, one of them, which really moved me, told me that she had really found her real path in life. She had always been looking, and she felt that this was really, this is it, And I guess that those are the greatest satisfactions from a mentor, right?
Yes, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our community. And here I speak about linguistic validation community. I think it's very important, the work that you're doing, sharing your knowledge, putting together the course, and creating a real community around it, supporting so many companies directly and indirectly through the training of expert linguists. I think it's great and huge, whatever you're doing through your course. So thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
If there's anyone listening to the podcast who would like to check your course or maybe directly enroll, can you let us know where they can find you? What's the name of your webpage?
Yes, my website is www.artofdiversity.org. And then each course has a specific website. So when I launch them, I publish them on LinkedIn, but always in my website. So right there. And also they can follow my LinkedIn profile. And over there it's indicated as well. And of course they can, anybody interested in linguistic validation can join us in the linguistic validation community in LinkedIn. It's called Linguistic Validation Community. And just ask to join. It's true that it's it's for people who is interested in linguistic validation in any way. So if you're a medical translator interested, but you have not been trained or whatever, you can join because you will benefit from being there. Yeah, so they could, my website would be the best the best choice and my LinkedIn profile.
Perfect. We
Yes.
will also mention the details of your webpage and your profile exact name on the notes of the episode once it is rolled out. And
Wonderful.
yeah, before we really finish the interview, what would you advise anyone? How should they handle their own professional career despite any challenge they might face?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I'm thinking now for a moment, just in relation to medical translators, linguistic validation is a niche, but
Mm-hmm.
also it's kind of a human niche. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a bit less affected by artificial intelligence. So it's a good way for diversifying. Maybe I forgot to say that because that's something that at least to my students have given some sense of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the fact that that's happening now. The reality is that artificial intelligence will be used sometime or other, but in the linguistic validation world, um, there is um, companies are being requested feedback on how do they think that artificial intelligence can be used and if it can be applied or not for each and every aspect of the or step of the linguistic validation process. So the people in the industry are giving feedback on that. So it's not just we are going to be using AI like crazy and we don't care about anything. No, it's being considered very,
Mm-hmm.
very thoroughly.
Totally.
I think it's through ISPOR or ISOQL, I don't remember now, but I received a survey to evaluate and give my consideration, and many company owners have received that and professionals in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's being really taken care of in a reflected way. Empower yourself with all your wisdom, and that's where you are going to start seeing solutions. And maybe they don't come right away, but they
Mm-hmm.
come in a few days or in a few hours, and just to say, oh, I could do this, and you follow that, or I could do that, and you start creating other avenues of possibility. That would be like one of the options. And then for your career would be well, it's very easy to say believe in yourself, but it's very hard to do when we don't believe in ourselves. So um, maybe it's just the power of the group is very strong, and sometimes we get so self-centered that we lose
Mm-hmm.
sight and um, just to try to connect, try to reach out with other people, try to belong to some community that makes you feel, it doesn't need to be translators communities, any community where you feel that you can be yourself and start nurturing that self-confidence. And to understand that you will always have to change, like
To
thinking
evolve,
that,
maybe.
yeah, yes, and grow. Like you cannot stay in the same place, even though it's comfortable. Or let's say,
Mm.
I would like to continue doing this because I really know how to do this, and I don't want to. Life is always going to invite you to change because it's impossible to not to change. So to be open to that, and even though the names change, or you are now a translator, but what's the essence of being a translator? What's the essence of that you love doing when you translate? And to be open to the possibility of having to change, because you like, the more we fight against reality, the more we suffer. And
Exactly.
sometimes reality is coming at you and there's nothing you can do. But there's an emerging future at the same time that is pulling you towards it. So to be able to listen and not be afraid of the changes, it's like there are so many possibilities, and not to be afraid of doing other kind of job for a while. if it needs, if it's necessary to bring you food and shelter and dignity, and along the way things will change. It's like sometimes, or we are unemployed and it's like, I don't have a job, no? And you say, well, you do have a job. Your job is waking up in this moment, brushing your teeth, going to your computer, doing this, doing that. You have a job. That's enough for today, and just keep at it, and ask for help. I love when people in LinkedIn, let's say, they ask for help. They say, I've been left out, or let go of my job, and I really need work. And that's a sign of courage. That's a sign of reality, and that's humble, and that's real, and they get a lot of help. So don't be afraid of asking for help. And if you have specific project challenges, also ask your project manager for help. Say, I'm having difficulties with this. They are human beings. They are not like your
Yeah, exactly.
and if you're a project manager and you're overloaded and overwhelmed like normally you are, just say, if you want quality, there's a limit here, and just like express your truth, whatever happens. And if you are let go, it's fine. You'll find a better place for you. You've been, I always think, when sometimes I've done tests for many companies, and some of them have failed me, and of course, and I was like, I can't believe it. And I even showed some family members are medical specialists, doctors, and they said, no, but that's perfectly fine. No, but for whatever reason, and other times I didn't do a good test, really. Sometimes happens. And I remember, like, I heard also this Byron Katie mentor say, when somebody rejects you, I think
The
I've
redirect.
I've been spared. I've been spared. That wasn't my place, and it's okay. And it doesn't mean that you are not valuable. It's just that one that wasn't your place. And your different places will come, and you don't need to have every client and everything, just some of them. In my case, I've worked throughout my life in many places. I paid my studies working in a restaurant, uh, and then I worked in different things, and it's okay. And it don't be afraid of working in other areas if it's necessary. It's fine. It's okay. Life will bring you precious gifts, because everywhere you will learn and you will grow, and you will bring back all of that when you get back on your feet. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for finishing with such a positive message to everyone who might be facing any challenges during their professional journey. Thank you so much for such a deep and honest conversation. I truly, truly appreciate that you opened up your heart and shared with us so much of your personal journey. And thank you so much for what you're doing for the linguistic validation community. And for sure, we keep in touch. So thank you, Nur.
Thank you so much for your beautiful podcast and for what you are doing for our community.